Welcome to Fayette County School Sports Television. I'm Samantha Burford. We're here today at Jack Burford Chevrolet. They're our official sponsor for our regional, let's say, basketball show, because it is basketball season. I'm going to introduce the guys. We've got Terry, Larry, Doug, and Dawn. And they are going to give you lots of opinions on not only boys but girls basketball as well. So we're going to start out with the regional boys team. Who do you guys think? Region 11.
We just kind of actually discussed that. We had Dunbar right now on top, I think. Is that a consensus for everybody? Everybody got that Dunbar team on top?
I think so. They've got the Hollingsworth kid, and he's been playing well and getting a lot of attention from colleges. And they've got 2 or 3 other kids that are right there behind him and have stepped up at times when he hasn't had a good game. And they're the class of the field right now. But there's some teams not very far behind.
The top 5 are real close together, in my opinion. I mean, Dunbar is the best. The gap is not that wide. It can be a really small gap.
Yeah, I think you got Scott County next.
I like Scott County as my 2.
And I got Lafayette next. So.
Let me say something about Dunbar. First off, Central beat them. And the second thing, I think they beat Bryan Station twice. I think they beat Tates Creek once or twice and Lexington Christian once or twice. So when you're 17-4 and you beat teams that are winning average less than 5 games, their schedule looks a little. To me, I would say Scott County. You look at Scott County's roster, and Scott County has played. They don't play very many local teams. They've played Ohio. They've played Indiana. They've played teams from Tennessee. They played teams from Georgia. Start 2 freshmen and 3 sophomores. So I'm just, I looked at those schedules, and you can see, how many times they beat each other up there around Lexington, and I think that's, just take a look at really who they're playing and who Scott County's played. So you're right. I mean, we do have a pick the second, but I think right now, if you like everybody, I think it likes Dunbar on the top, which is just because they just came off a big win off of Henry Clay, 20 points.
They've been pretty consistent all year long.
Pretty consistent, but if you're everybody else in Region 11, and look, Madison Central, we just kind of talked about, they beat Dunbar. If you're Region 11 right now, you got to feel good about your chances all the way around.
Well, look here. Look, Madison Central beat Dunbar, and then they beat Montgomery County. Montgomery County's giving Scott County their only loss.
Right. That's what I said. Right now, if you're in Region 11, you got to feel pretty good about just getting
8 schools are going to make the regional tournament. 6 of those 8 could very likely win it with the right drive.
That I agree with.
There'll be a couple schools getting in probably who don't belong. Since in this 44th district, we do a blind draw. They're not always going to send the best 2 teams, but 6 teams have a real legit shot going in to win it.
Blind draw? What's a blind draw?
It's not seeded.
I know. I'm just saying that we talk. I mean, it just drives me nuts. I mean, it is so unfair to the kids. But everybody gets in on occasion that doesn't need, and then it upsets the whole bracket. So sometimes the best team doesn't get there.
Right now, Berea's got like 5 wins in boys basketball. They get the right draw. They draw a model. They could beat model somehow.
And be in the final.
Scott County gets to blast them in the first round.
Well, I think the 2.
It's a bye.
If we go back and look at from the beginning of the year, and you look at where things are now, the 2 surprise teams in 11th region, I think, are Scott County.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And Madison Central.
Absolutely.
I didn't expect much out of either one of those 2 teams. Central lost a lot. They're small. But they've had some kids step up big time this year. The Brotman kid has played much better than I thought he would.
He's hit a lot of threes.
The Williams, everybody knew about Williams, but all the other kids have done an excellent job stepping up, and Central's had some big wins. You mentioned the Dunbar game. They had Mercer down 17 points in the first half. Mercer's rated number 1 in the state right now. And Mercer came back and beat them, but I mean, they have shown that they can play with about anybody.
Just like Friday night. So Hoptown comes up.
Yeah, they were with Hoptown until the middle of the third quarter. There, Hoptown went out on a run, but
so you got to me you got Dunbar and Scott 1 or 2-1, whatever you want to do. So your third team is who? Lafayette. And what about their team? What do you like about them?
Lafayette's got a couple of shooters still, I believe. I can't remember the kid's name.
Ross Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins' kid's pretty decent.
And Lane Harrison.
They have size. I believe they got. Don't they have some size?
Well, Ross Jenkins are size inside. He's the one leading scorer, but the kid on the outside that hits the Lane Harrison's their leading 3-point shooter right now. So I think I like Lafayette. I like their athleticism. We talked a lot about Lafayette early in the year.
Yeah.
They put one on. They put something on Central when they play them.
The Lane kid is Brian's.
That's right, Ron Lane's son.
Yeah. the coach at Transylvania. And the thing about Scott County, going back to Scott County, they're starting 3 freshmen.
Yep.
Is it 3 sophomore and 2 freshmen, or 3 freshmen
I
and 2
think it's
sophomore?
3 freshmen.
Very, very young.
3 freshmen, very young. You know, Billy Hicks was talking about at the beginning of the year. It's the youngest team he'd ever coached in his whole career, and those guys have stepped up. I mean, a couple of kids, one of the freshmen, averaging over 20 points a game.
Yeah, he said he likes the fact that they believe all of his stories. They haven't been around long enough that they still believe all the BS he puts on them.
Well,
but he did a good job recruiting. I mean, he's recruited a fabulous team up there this year.
We'll see how all that plays out in postseason because
I think a lot of people agree with you.
All right, that's why you can say it and not be in trouble for it.
They're gonna build another high school out there soon, huh?
Yeah, they're gonna, he's fighting that, and I don't think
We're not gonna go there, right?
Really, Hicks is fighting that high school tooth and nail.
Of course they are.
I'm not gonna take anything.
Well, we talked about freshmen. I like what Central's getting out of their freshmen right
Yes,
now.
I was going to say that.
I like
That's where their
Isaiah
hype's
Kosars,
coming
and
from.
I know Briar Rose got hurt, and he was out for a while.
Yeah.
The game that we called against Woodford County was a dominant game, and Kosars got some great minutes inside. Really dominated. I think he had 6 blocks in that game, leading rebounder. He didn't score as well, but you can see it coming. You know, I think that you can see that coming with him.
Well, Coach Fieldhouse was high on him at the beginning of the year. I saw him before the season started, and he mentioned that this kid is something special, and all he needs is some time and some experience, and he's going to blossom into something really, really good for them by the end of the year. And then he got 3 years left, so what's he going to be like by then?
He's getting some good minutes.
So where do you have them ranked? So where's Central? You got Lafayette or Scott County, and about Scott County, hey, those kids are playing. They've earned it. So I'm just picking on them for their past transgressions, but
we'll see how that plays out in the postseason.
And it's great though, 18-1. I mean, and it's not how you start; it's how you finish. And man, to give those kids the playing time, and we talk about Central and the struggles they've gone through. Most of the kids playing this year had to sit there and watch everybody else play for the last 3 years. And they've paid their dues. Dakota Begley, Tariq Miller, all of them have the skills, but now's their time to shine, and they're taking advantage of it. And Coach will tell you that it's probably the best perimeter shooting team he's ever coached.
Right, they're shooting 42% from 3 right now. Yeah. That's almost unheard of, but. They're well balanced. When we play, I watch them. They you don't really know.
Well, different kid steps up. Seems like every night.
Or Williams will step in, or Brockman shined that game that we played, and we gave player of the game that game to Kosars because I think he was so dominant defensively inside. But it's a different person every game. You're going to see somebody. So I like the balance.
So the opponent can't just focus on Grant Brockman because you got 6 guys who can step in.
What about the Muntz kid coming in as a freshman?
It does exactly another good young one. Got good height.
Good time.
But Kosar, I think he had 5 or 6 blocks against Woodford County, and I don't know if he knew he was going to start or not. But I thought he did a great job. Terry, you and I, once again, we got to call that game. But so they do have some, some depth. I think he ran 8 deep that night with these other players, and they were in total control of that game from start to finish. Who's in the 4 spot here?
Henry Clay.
Henry Clay.
Yeah, Henry Clay in the 4. Yeah, I'm sure that's disputed anywhere.
Yeah. Well, Dunbar did, like you mentioned earlier, they put it on pretty good the other night. And Henry Clay's, I watched them last year. I wasn't really impressed with them. I know they're supposed to be a real strong defensive team, but they've had some ups and downs this year. I don't think that they're playing at a consistent level at this point.
Got County beat them by 11, and they got beat by 19 last week against Dunbar. So. Like I said, if you're in the 11th region right now, you got to feel good. You got to feel good about your opportunity.
Depending on how the regional sets up, there's 6, 7 teams that have a shot. I tell you, if Madison Southern makes it, they can make some noise if they get the right draw. Don't have to play Central right away.
Mm-hmm. Southern
lost a model earlier this month, but.
Southern had been playing really well over Christmas break and strung together a lot of wins in a row.
Even got 42 on them.
Yeah.
Driving with a basket.
He went a little nuts on that game.
Yeah. He is a hard kid to contain. I mean, he's got one of the most deceptive last steps. Yeah. He's got that Euro step, and you think you're there, and then he goes right around you, and he is really, really quick.
Yeah, we see him on the soccer field a lot. So we know all about that.
And then the
Chin kid is a heck of an athlete. He's an underrated athlete. Jumps well, strong physical kid. Got some really good moves around the basket. He can step out in moderate range and shoot the ball.
So you saying it was a fluke that Model beat Southern down? No, it was 2 overtime.
We called it a mild upset. I think Southern's got better overall talent, but Model just played better that night.
I think going in statistically, I think the Myers said they were like an 18-point underdog going into that game.
Yeah.
I think if they had to
I see the mild.
I wouldn't say
but
that's
I don't know. I mean,
accurate.
that's just a stat.
I like Model,
out, you know,
but they've got 2 kids who can really play well. And
Yeah.
I don't know about their supporting cast.
Right. I think
Right.
after that,
And that's generally the deal with them.
It is.
Yeah.
Southern's got 3 or 4 kids that can play really well at any time. You know, it's like kind of like Central. You can't guard just one of the 3 or 4. You have to be careful with Southern, but
The kid that's been stepping up for Southern is Michael Jefferson.
Jefferson came out and had 30 against Model.
He had 33 that night,
Yeah.
and he hit the game winner on the last second shot against Woodford County. And you can tell by watching him, his confidence is growing with every game, and he looks more assertive out there, which, you know, we've talked about it several times. We've expected that out of him for a long time because he is an athletic kid. And he's got good size for a guard, and, you know, he's taking the ball to the basket with authority. Kidwell is playing well for them, and as those 2 guys go, that seems to be how Southern goes.
Caleb
I think the
Miller.
Burns
Caleb
kid
Miller
too.
had
Caleb
some big
Miller.
games early.
Right.
You know, he can knock down some threes.
Stacy's very capable, but he's been really inconsistent here lately.
Inconsistent.
Yeah.
But I think he's on his.
Hopefully he's
I'm-
on the upswing.
That's what I'm hoping. And I think if they had to play Model again, I think they'd beat Model.
But there's 6 schools, like I say, that could win the
Well,
region.
everybody needs a wake-up call.
So you're
Yeah.
saying number
Yeah.
5 in the region then would be Central? I mean, we've talked about them quite. We've mixed them in on everybody because they haven't played Scott
I
County
tell you
yet.
what, Madison Central, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Scott County. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they got beat by Scott County because right now, Central is a team that I think still trying to find an identity.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't have a big guy really to go to anymore. You know, they don't have the Dominique Hawkins or anyone like that.
Sam.
Yeah, there's no Sam Jones out there. So you got 4 or 5 guys who step up nightly. And
Yeah.
there's really no
So
leader
they're
on
real
that
diverse.
team.
Tariq Miller's shown that he can hit a good shot.
I've
We
yet to
watched
see
him in that
Central
Montgomery
play a
County
lot
game.
this
Especially in the
season.
clutch.
Yeah,
Who
he
takes
hit
their
that
last second
second
shot?
Tariq
Tariq
Miller.
Miller.
Rick Miller's their go-to guy.
We watched him shoot that one with 2 seconds against
Yeah, against
Montgomery County.
Montgomery.
Game
They nailed it.
they were down the entire game, and honestly, probably had no business winning that
Yeah.
game. I think it was a little bit of contribution Montgomery County because they kind of lost their head a little bit, and their number 1 player fouled out. But you know, good composure. Central fought back. They've never really lost their fight. They stayed in the game. 2 seconds later, Tariq hits a fadeaway from the elbow, and suddenly, you know, Madison Central's up. So, you know, Tariq would be that guy. Williams, I could see being that guy.
Grant Brockman hit a
Brockman
shot.
can be that guy. So I think they have a lot of different. Honestly, it's kind of where if I look at Central and it's a game time decision, I want to know who's hot.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it could be anybody on that floor.
You're game planning for Central. You
Yeah.
can't go in, stop number 20 Brockman or whoever.
Right.
Because stop him, John Williams, Trick Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Brockman was
Dakota
playing
Begley. I mean,
against
Dakota Begley. I mean, Dakota Begley helped them beat Dunbar by shutting down their number 1
There you go.
scorer. I mean, he absolutely shut them down. Now, you won't see that in the paper and you won't see it on TV, but
No,
he
you see
was
the
the
little
deal.
stats that
Absolutely.
coaches care about.
Right, and then you know, Williams in that game, he was a little selfish to start with, but he kind of then he started, you know, dealing and got everybody else involved, and that's how they won that game. But you know, you just have to always respect Coach Feldhouse. I mean, because I mean, if you sat down there and listened to what he's asking those kids to do and the plays that he's calling and the way he's setting things up, if they can execute, he's going to give them a chance to win. And they work on the things to make that happen.
I've known Alan 22 years now coaching, and he's probably the best X and O guy I've been around in my 22 years. And he can get them kids to believe anything. They believe him, and they will go through a wall for him. They believe he will put them in the right place to win a ball game. Like you said, you know, against Montgomery County, he drew up the play, and they executed.
Yes.
You may not execute it, but he will have you in the right position to play.
Yeah, I'm not sure that exactly was the shot he wanted because it was a fadeaway fall.
Well, the other, you know,
I mean, but he looked like what
But
they
it went
tried to
in.
get
But
out.
he
Because
got-
they went into the paint. I think he was looking at the dish. That was not. He had to turn around and take the shot. But it looked like he was looking for that post.
that night,
He wasn't there.
he had them against Woodford County. That was the last game we called together. Not the last game we've seen, but they missed so many point-blank shots.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And that's, as a coach, you're frustrated because they do everything right. And I mean, they get a layup and they try to get fancy or do this or do that. They just can't get it in, or it could have been worse.
Well, what we
Defense.
saw in that game is because right before that, I know you mentioned that Williams had been a little bit selfish on early, but what we saw over and over again in Woodford County was the extra pass.
Absolutely.
So he sent that message coming out of that Dunbar game. Hey,
yeah.
this is the way we're going to play because you know how many times we noted in that game, I love the extra pass. I love the extra pass. I love the extra
Well, one
pass.
thing about Allen is, you know, offensively, you start breaking down his offense, and I've scouted his offense many times. You know, he doesn't get real complicated. He puts people in positions where they can excel. And the two things that are consistent about Madison Central's teams is, number one, they're going to be hard-nosed. And number two, they're going to play the heck out of the defense. They get up and pressure you, and they create. Now, this team especially relies a lot on their defense to create offense. And
a lot more transition this year.
Yeah. Well, they're small. They have to play
and if
that
they
way.
could just get those buckets to fall, he didn't even get to run the full court press against Woodford, and they've got a good full court
But one
press.
of the things we noted again in that game, especially the Woodford game, was they didn't deliver a lot over miscues. If they missed a shot point blank, they hustled back on defense, and we saw 6-7 different times. Hustling back on defense, they made the turnover again.
And blocked shots.
Like they didn't spend a lot of time going, I missed that shot, or it was back on defense, immediately back on the roll. And you know how many times they beat Woodford down the court and took the ball? It was over and over again. We saw that same scenario playing out.
I didn't see the Hoptown game, but from what I read in the paper, Hoptown is very, very athletic. As athletic as anyone in the 11th round. Exactly. And they pressured Central a lot. Central had about 18 turnovers, I think, in the game, which a little bit high for them. But Fieldhouse was saying that that's what they needed. They will see that down the road somewhere. And he's never been afraid to schedule tough teams. As a matter of fact, that was a pickup game. That was a game that they didn't have on the schedule.
No, he didn't go pick up an easy team. He called Hoptown. Hey, y'all going to Somerset Saturday? You want to stop in Richmond?
Yep.
You're limited this time of year. Who has an opening on a Friday night anyway? Not too many people do.
Yeah. Well, that's what if there is an Achilles heel, it's what we saw when teams are down and they do put pressure. You see them get rattled a little bit on the full court. He did that in Montgomery County, put a lot of pressure on them, and they had a struggle in that game. And then even for about 4 or 5 minutes in that game, Woodford made a small comeback coming back because they did a three-quarter pressure, and I think Central turned over 5 straight times. He called a timeout. We got everyone there, and everyone in control, and they kind of took that control. If you see anything that might be something that could hurt them, that could be something that would come back and bite them.
I'm glad the guys have stuck it out. The kids that are there have stuck. I know they had some people quit, but I think that they've sat there, they've paid their dues, they've been to practice, they did all the JV stuff, and now, it's one and done for them pretty much. You know what I'm saying? When this thing gets going, so I'm glad that the kids that have Dakota and Tariq and Brockman and Williams, those guys are out there, giving it all they've got every game, and they've been easy. It's easy to quit.
They get some maturity out of the kids, the freshmen out in the middle. I think they can be a team to deal with because they got size with those kids. Those kids bring a lot of size to that team, and they don't. Kozar's 6'5". He's a big
and
kid.
Long arms. He's got long arms.
He's probably 6'6", 6'7" inside. He's a big kid. If you can get some maturity out of that group, I think you.
And Muntz, I think, has stepped up.
Muntz around the same size. Yeah. You got kids that can bring something on down the road if they can mature up, especially around that Region 11 tournament.
I think you guys really like Coach Feldhaus.
Oh, it's just fun to watch him. You learn if you understand.
I like him.
He's a great game manager.
If you understand
what's in front of him. But I think you like him. I think they're going to sneak in and they're going to. I'm anxious to see next month where you rank Central compared to this month.
Right. Well, I think that they're right at the 5 mark. I've seen them play, and they've beat some teams, and they've, taken their lumps, but they're sticking in there and getting better all the time. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
You're right. All right. Enough about Central and the boys. It's time to talk girls. Let's do the top 5 because we want to keep this thing moving. So instead of giving us the 10, give us your top 5 for girls.
We talking region? We talking state?
We're talking region.
Franklin County number 1.
Franklin County's 1 by a landslide.
1 and 1A
So
right there.
Everybody agrees. Franklin County.
Way up. They got 2 nice players.
That was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. Second team, I'd say, is probably Scott County. They're a surprise to me this year, Scott County girls. I don't know how good they'd be. They're pretty good. So it's either them or Henry Clay. You can go 2-3 again, 3-2 with them. So, but they both seem to be pretty good. Scott County has a girl averaging 15 a game. They're leading scorer. And I'm really surprised at how well they played. So,
who's your number 3? Then you got them 2 and 3. Scott
Henry Clay.
Yeah, Henry Clay. And 4.
Lafayette.
Yeah.
I like Lafayette.
They got a girl averaging 21 a game.
Yeah. They're not as good as they have been in the past couple of years, but I think, they're still pretty good. Will they compete for the region? With the right draw, possibly.
Well, I agree. I think
they have
Franklin County's kind of the win.
You got to stay away from Franklin County. If whoever you are going into the 11th region, you want to draw opposite Franklin. So, and number 5 is
Yeah, Western Hills, or you like?
The home team buys, I'm putting Southern at number 5.
I'm going
The
Southern.
Lady Eagles.
Oh,
Brianna
struggled.
Lanham.
snuck that in there.
Also averaging 21 a game, Brianna Lanham.
Lanham's averaging 21.
Coach Simmons, well, thank you for that.
But
Well, she's already set the all-time leading scoring
Yeah.
record for boys and girls earlier this year, and just a top-notch quality kid. I know she's had some looks from some different colleges coming in to look at her, and they've got some kids that on occasion, the Clark kid's playing really well, little point guard.
they keep that point guard playing good, they can beat some teams.
Yeah, and then the Lawson girl is, I still think, I'm just waiting for her to break out. She's so athletic. She's got great size.
Or Lawson plays a post,
And,
and she's in and out, though. I mean, one game she'll look really good, next game, not so well.
Yeah, but she's somebody that could be an X factor for them.
It is. If I was going to choose another 5 team, it would have probably been someone like Madison Central. Central is an anomaly to me. I think they should be playing better than they are with the roster they have and the girls they have. I'm expecting more out of them, I guess. But if Central could turn it around, they can be another team that, draw away from Franklin County, could possibly win a game in the regional.
I think I've seen them play a couple times, and one thing I want to say about Madison Southern is that they've asked Brianna Lanham to play a different position. She's come out to the
Like
top of the
two-guard.
key,
Playing a
and where
two-guard
she's
now.
always played in the post position. And I think that even with that transition, she's shown her athleticism and leadership, and the team believes in her.
Yeah.
And she's done a fantastic job with it. And I think that Coach Simmons and allowing her to do that is going to help her with her options for college.
That's
You know what
the
I'm
reason
saying?
I think that they
Absolutely.
did that.
I mean, because it just shows her athleticism
She's
and
number one
her
She's
ability to
redesigned
be
her
coached.
body
Absolutely.
too. Over the last 2 years,
She went from
you look at her when she was
yeah,
a freshman,
she's
sophomore.
thinned out and
Really
trimmed
thinned
out.
She's lost all that
Yeah.
weight and put muscle on instead of
Yeah.
and that doesn't allow her to do
Yeah.
that.
And I'm glad that she's been recognized. As far as Central goes, I agree with you, Don. I mean, they've got the talent. They've got the
talent.
roster. They got to fly in the ointment somewhere. There's some drama
Something going on.
the underlying side of that team somewhere.
There
And
is.
until they can figure it out amongst themselves, and it happens.
I mean, I've been around some teams that, pretty good kids, pretty good team, but something is not going right for them.
They have no what you
that-
call mudita.
we call
and
that
you can
UK
look
football.
that up.
There's something going on. I don't know
Is
what.
that it? We call that UK football.
Yeah.
Central could
Yeah,
turn it
I
around.
call
They
it
could be
I
that.
call it mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A. Look it up and really the meaning of that word is that you're happy for somebody else doing good. And I think that some people, because of the way their roles have been defined and what's expected of them, they haven't bought into it, so
Right.
they create friction and it just hasn't gelled over yet. Cooksy's doing the right thing.
Right. He's switched up the point guard this year,
Yeah.
which
And but you got to mix your players in and do all those types of things. But I just think that if they can just get the drama over with and fight for it, they're going to be okay. And I
I
think they
haven't
can
seen
beat
Central
them.
play a lot this season. The girls haven't seen them very much, but I watched them play. I think it was Somerset they played against. And don't know what it was. Just something didn't look right in that ball club.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the girls in the 44th district, you've got Southern,
And Central.
you've got Central just maybe a step behind,
Yep.
and they're head and shoulders above Berea and Model.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in the boys' side, though, you've got Central probably is playing the best, no doubt. Southern's a step behind them, or Model.
Model.
I mean, those two and three, are up for grabs right now. And if we were seeding this year,
Yep.
it'd be a
Model
it'd be a
good
Model and Southern rematch in the boys, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
That'd be
that'd be
that-
fun.
that'd be a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When does Central play Model boys? Do we know?
I don't know if they
think
do. I don't think they're on the
Don't think in the
schedule.
regular season.
Allen doesn't. Well, I can't say he doesn't want to, but I don't think he plays Model.
Right.
But it does.
Because in the
And,
past,
I
and once
get it.
in the
again,
past,
it makes
Model
no
was
difference.
Model.
It
Right.
makes no difference, and that's why the seeding it would be relevant. I mean, it's the same in every sport. There's just no reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Before
Now, one
we-
thing is that now the districts. And are the districts and region over in Frankfurt this year? I don't think they're at EKU this year.
Our districts are EKU. 44th.
The 44th at
will
EKU,
be-
then the regional
region will be
tournament
back
is in
in
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt.
Okay.
Because they alternate every other.
Before we leave this girls basketball talk, Whitney Creek of Jenkins County,
Uh-oh.
averaging 51 points a ball game. She was on pace to get 5,000 points in her career.
Wow.
Never
Is she
been
a
done
senior?
before.
She's a
Wow.
senior
She is
this
a
year?
senior.
She's going to Western Kentucky.
Is she really? Good for her. That's awesome.
She's also averaging 17 rebounds a game. Have
So-
you ever seen a player like that?
No, but it'd
Yeah.
be fun to
I
watch.
want to see the rest of the stats
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And
I had
like,
a, I had
but
a
would
friend
also-
of mine that went to see her play, and they had played a team here in Central Kentucky. I can't remember, but they got beat. But Jenkins had 70 points.
Yeah.
Creek's kid.
She's been averaging.
In one game?
she's
No.
getting 70.
The team had 70.
Oh.
She had 60.
Yeah. She's been getting
The
60,
only other
65 points.
the only
a game.
other player to score had 10, so there was 2 players on their team made up their 70
And
points.
to me,
that was it.
right, and this is
That's right.
That's what
Well, it's
I
never
would-
as easy as all that. We watched Jody Meeks for 53. He's the man, right? 54, but it's
Then
the
the
could
next
try to
game,
stop
next
the
game, Gillespie wouldn't let him shoot against Florida. If you remember all that.
That's a
But-
whole different.
well, Billy's out of coaching right now.
But,
Yeah.
you're right. But the thing is with that, I'd like to see the team she's playing. You know what I mean? Did they put a schedule together
No,
to help
they're
her get all
playing
that?
decent ball
Okay,
clubs.
because you know what I mean.
They're
They
also
can.
playing nobody.
I've seen that happen
They
in
don't
other
have that great
sports
of a
where they're
record.
like, I want
They
to
don't
get
have
this.
that great of a team record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when she does play somebody pretty good, though, she gets 35 and 40.
Yeah.
So she's not just beating up a bunch of cupcakes.
Right.
Well, you know she's getting double and triple team too.
And
so
you know she's getting run at. Yeah, they're doubling her as soon as she
it's not
starts
like
the
you're
line.
just. You got to applaud it. You can put
51 points.
51 points.
I bet
5,000 points.
5,000
I'm
points.
certain
You
of
signed
one
at
thing-
Western. Kudos to you, and that's something that everybody should be talking about. Good for her.
I know. I'm certain of one thing. She can probably dribble with each hand with her head up.
Yeah, I bet so.
Miss Kentucky
Well, she comes in
basketball.
Oh, yeah,
early
no
to
doubt.
school at 6 o'clock in the morning
See,
on weekdays to get in the gym and work out.
Shoot.
Just to work out on her own before school starts.
There's the X
and
factor.
then she has practice or a game, and
goes
she does that
to
year
Full
round.
all day.
Yeah,
right.
the X factor.
And
Okay.
it's going to pay off.
And been playing on the varsity since she's a 5th grader.
yeah, she's been playing varsity since 5th grade.
Well, that's the same thing with
That's a
Small
Lanham.
town.
Yeah,
At Berea, she's been playing. She started in the district at
Seventh
Southern when she was
Seventh.
started as a 7th grader down there. You know, for
Playing
them,
as
and
seventh
so you know if you got the motor running and you're willing to put in the time and effort, you'll get the rewards of
That's
it.
it. That's the X
That's
factor
true,
right
especially
there.
if you're
That's what
athletic.
determines how you're.
Okay, listen. The producer's telling me we gotta take it to break, and when we come back, what do you want to talk about? We want to talk a little bit about UK football and a little. I mean, it is over.
Football or
but,
basketball?
Well,
Either
you
one.
mentioned it
Either
a
one's
minute
gonna be
ago. I was
fun.
going to let you make one more comment about it. But truth be told, we need to talk about EKU basketball is really what we need to talk about. And I don't know, you mentioned off camera a little bit about EKU football. So I'll let you get it in there if you want to. All right. We want to thank Jack Burford Chevrolet. We want to thank